Okay. So again, welcome. The way that I view this is that this is like an Adam Rhodey town hall, right? We here in the GCDS community really want to bring everybody together to teach and to learn from all of us. So while we will answer some of your questions, Polly, Laura, and I will answer some of your questions, we'd also love to hear from some of you on what you see is working, what you see don't working, your anxieties about what's going on, anxieties that you may see in your children so far. And we'd love to have this just be an open town hall where we start to put things on the table and begin to ask questions, raise concerns. How are we doing this? How are people dealing with the social isolation piece? And we'll start to talk about all of those. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, the parents. Actually, first I'm going to turn over to Adam really quickly just to say a few words.
Thanks, Jeff. Just real quickly, hello to everybody. It's great to see you. Hope you're hanging in there, and I hope your families are healthy and you're not wanting to strangle your children yet. I just wanted to start by saying the high school team, and led by Chris and Rick, have been working their tails off over the last week and a half. They've pretty prepare what will be a very robust and appropriate remote learning experience for your kids. And we've been trying to communicate with you often, and we expect that you'll hear from us a few more times this week before we get to Friday, when you'll have the remote learning website rolled out for you to start jumping into on the following Monday. We see this as a ongoing iterative process. We're going to make some mistakes along the way. And one of the things I wanted to just preview for you is that on Friday of next week, so a week from this Friday, you'll get a survey from us. And the survey will be specific to your online learning experience. And you need to tell us at those surveys what's working, what didn't work, what you'd like to see change, what we're missing. And we think that'll be a great tool for us to be able to course correct as we go forward. We've been watching very closely other schools who have been doing remote learning. The schools on the West Coast are 2 weeks ahead of us. The Greenwich Public Schools are 2 weeks ahead of us. And it's been very informative to read the communications that these schools have put out, to see what has worked, what course corrections they've made. And so we can avoid some of those problems as we go forward. And I think we're really ready to do some exciting things. And just a huge shout out to our high school team and putting curriculum together, and also our tech team, who has done just a great job of preparing our teachers with the tools that they're going to need to roll out the remote learning to your sons and daughters. With that said, today we're really going to try to focus more on the social emotional learning, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have about the remote learning, but we really want to spend more time thinking about the social emotional experience that your kids are going to have. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Okay. So, all right, parents, what are your questions for us? What are your concerns? What have you noticed? What are you worried about happening?
This is Tim Oberweger. How you doing, Jeff?
Hi, Tim. How are you?
Good. Good to see everyone. My only question is, we have a daughter who's at Eastern Middle School, so she's coming to GCDS in the fall. But seeing what they've been doing and just how her day has, I think, been challenging because of the lack of structure. I know GCDS is going to have a lot more structure. My one concern is with Naomi and with all the kids that are in ninth grade, is that there could be a good path forward initially, and then my feeling is that there is a need for some stress relief throughout the day. I saw there was some breaks. There was a break in the morning and a couple breaks in the afternoon. I just want to make sure that there's enough time to feel like they're not overwhelmed by staring at the screen all day, that they have time to walk around and try to get some exercise as well. That would be my my overall sentiment. So I'm sure you guys are going to address that, but I wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, Tim, let me jump in that I have a son who's at Greenwich High School as well, who, the wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, sign in, do all the grunt work that they actually weren't actually doing in school, to make it seem as if they are doing work. For students, they lose the total social piece and they are spending their entire time in front of a computer. And that's something we thought about. To me, the most important part is going to be those morning classes where children check in and touch base with their teachers and their classmates and have a conversation and talk about how things are going and then set themselves on the path for the day. So those conversations may take 10 minutes. They may be in the form of a roundtable discussion about what's going on in their lives, and then sort of an introduction of what the work should look like for today, and then office hours later on, because I think a lot of things that the children are missing right now is the adult interactions inside a lot of the schools. So our hope is that we can have lots of touch points between children and adults and children and children. So that's how we sort of create this hybrid schedule of synchronous learning in the morning and asynchronous learning in the afternoon.
And Rick, do you want to
I think that's a great
quickly on
approach.
the advisor piece?
Yep, and also, the advisors will probably take a much more active role in your children's life, which I think is great. Our advisory program can become more robust. So we are going to have advisory meetings 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just for that group of 5, 6, 7 students who have been getting together once a week, just to talk about what's going on and how they're feeling and stress relief. And for parents as well, the advisor is going to be really your touch point, because what we're not going to see is the social isolation that's happening inside the bedroom or the stir craziness that's happening. I have 2 boys at home right now, and you're going to see it as well. Once all your children start doing school inside the community, there's going to be 4 of you working from home, 5 of you working from home, 7 of you working from home. It becomes a different household, and finding time to find joy and happiness and connection and time with your children outside of this, what I like to call horrific remote world we're all living in now is so important. And the advisor is going to be that touch point. When you see your child struggling, let the advisor know so that the advisor can reach out to Jeff, to Chris, to me, to teachers, because what we want to do is make children feel the best they can going through this.
Yeah. So let me add on to that. I mean, first of all, if your kids are struggling with anything, they can absolutely email me. Linked to my email is a little calendar or a little sign in for a calendar that they can log in and have Zoom sessions with me. So that's absolutely something that we can do. The other piece of this is I do want to speak to that social isolation piece, which is very different than social distancing. So we all know that we need to social distance, and we understand the importance of the social distancing. But social isolation is very different because it really speaks to kids feeling incredibly lonely. And what you're going to want to do is really look for some signs. So those signs are difficulty with sleeping, change in any kind of eating habits, change in hygiene. Are they not showering? Are they not getting out of their pajamas? You're going to look for change in emotion regulation. In particular, what you really want to look for is, do they not have the patience that they once did, right? Do they not have the tolerance? Are they getting snappy with you? Are they quick to jump down your throat? Those pieces become really, really important. Now, when I say this, I also recognize that I'm speaking to high school parents. So they often may do a lot of that already. But if it's getting worse, really pay attention to this. And the reason I worry about social isolation is because that leads to feelings of depression and sadness, which I really want to avoid. How do we deal with that? Again, they can reach out to any of the mental health people here on this team. You can all reach out to us, and we'd be glad to have a discussion. But we're also going to try to create different types of social aspects for the students. So for example, it's one thing to get online and talk about your English class or your math class or your history class. It's very different if a group of people get together and have a fun social goal in mind, right? And so a really bad example I've been giving today is, what if there were 5 or 6 friends who all wanted to learn magic? And so when they jumped on, they all logged on together in a Zoom chat like this, and then somebody shared their screen, and the screen was a YouTube video of people doing magic, right? And now they're communicating together, and it's a social way to get together without it having to be school. Maybe they all get online and they play a charades game, right? So there's many different ways that we can bring them together socially online. That doesn't have to be, hey, just log in and talk to your friends, because we all know how these kids these days don't do it the same way that we used to, which was, by the way, get on a phone, drag that cord all the way down the hall, close the door, hope your parents can't hear you, right? Very different in the way that they communicate today. Laura and Polly, you want to add on to any of that? Any thoughts on that, or?
Polly's mic's off.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying that it would be great maybe if you articulated some of the thoughts you had and shared earlier about some of the upper school clubs you were talking about. That might be helpful for people to hear.
So we have this wonderful kindness club at the high school, and I did a little Google Hangout with the 4 of the people in that club yesterday. And what we started to explore together was, were there different social activities that they could begin to develop? And so we spent about 15, 20, 25 minutes talking about these types of different activities that they could come up with and then push out to the student body. So we're going to have a follow-up, myself and the Kindness Club, on Friday, and I'm hoping that they're going to push forward a bunch of different ideas and different activities and like different Spirit Week ideas that are going to pull the student body together, or at least give them different social avenues that they can explore in smaller groups. So that is coming and to be determined, and it's going to be student-led, which is even better.
And Jeff, this might be a good time for Laura to talk a little bit about what you've been talking about on the other calls about structuring routines and the importance of routines for the high school kids.
Sure. As I said to the middle school parents, you'll get tired of us hearing that word or saying that word, routine, but super important to set up sort of a new routine now with this new way of being. So great if you can keep any of your family traditions that you've always had, because that's comforting and really important for everybody. If you're a family that has traditionally had dinner together, if you can still do that, please continue to do that. And at the same time, we're all going to need to be very flexible and good to ourselves and not expect any level of perfection throughout any of this. And we'll all find our way through. And then just establishing the new sort of rules that you're going to have. Where is the workspace going to be? Not just for your child, but for anybody in the home. So this could get challenging. If you have 2 working parents and a number of children, you're going to need to find those spaces that are dedicated to learning and that your children associate with, this is school time, it's time to be serious. And I'm going to get online and I'm going to communicate with my teacher and my fellow students. And this is what I do then. And where are the boundaries then? If a guardian is working, when are you allowed to interrupt the guardian? Or when is this absolutely a time where the guardian must do their work? You may not come in except for the following situations, and you can make sure that you talk about those. And then the rules that you've already had in place. We had some conversation with middle school parents with the Xbox. This parent was a parent of a boy, and certainly some of the girls are playing those games. But it's a great place to be social. I said on that video, I can't believe I am saying great things about Fortnite. But this is a time where our kids really need to see each other. They need to laugh together. They need that regular sort of routine. But that doesn't mean that when we get back to school that we're not going to have some rules around that. Our kids cannot be playing Fortnite or whatever else 24/7. They just can't. It won't be good for them. So whatever rules that you had in place, talk about what makes sense now. Maybe this is a time to be a little bit more flexible about that, since there's not time for them to get together. And maybe they can do that. And also for you, if you are in a situation where you're sort of losing it a little bit and you need a half hour to talk to a friend, talk to a significant other, go for a walk, those are the times to be good to yourself. And if you're letting your child play Xbox a little bit longer or whatever it is, so that you can be that responsible, calm, reassuring adult, then maybe that's a place where you're flexible also.
Yeah, well said. I think that the schedule becomes super important. So if your child is a nighttime shower, make sure that they're still taking their shower on a school night. If they're a morning shower, make sure they're taking it in the morning, right? We want them getting dressed for school. We don't want them in their pajamas because we want them to get back into a school-like routine. Super important. And if you think about some of the most important pieces during all of this, it's going to be sleep, it's going to be diet, it's going to be exercise, and it's going to be routine, 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 routine. Keeping them on that gives them something to look forward to, something that they're expecting to happen next. So this scheduling piece, super important.
And I should have added in that, I'm sorry, Jeff, in terms of the routine, thinking together as a family and having your child think about what's important to him or her and what you know to be important. So in that routine, in that schedule is time for exercise, whatever that means in your house. It is time to get outside, weather permitting, to get fresh air, which may or may not be the same time for exercise. There is time in that schedule to purposely connect with friends, purposely connect with grandma, grandpa, whoever it is. But that's going to be part of their daily routine because this is what we know to be good for them. So when you're sitting down the night before, so who did you schedule a Zoom meeting with, or whoever it is? Who are you going to watch the, we'll use the magic example. Who are you watching the magic video? Let's get that set up. Are you all ready to go? So that becomes part of a little piece of control that they can have, which is important now, and helping them establish that routine with the things that we all know that are just so critical for teenagers to have.
And that also means they got to get out of bed, they got to change out of their pajamas, they got to go to a workspace. There should be some sort of calendar that they're following by. And you don't have to be the bad parent and the jerk. You can blame that on Dr. Winters. He will be happy to be the bad guy and say, school wants you to do this on these time frames, so you need to get up and get to these time frames. We're in school. This is just a different version of school.
Correct.
So the next question, Jeff, it looks like it says, can GCDS please make it clear that there should be no get-togethers in person?
Is that a message, Adam, that we are going to send?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's a message that we all are sending as parents. I mean, we're following the restrictions set up by the governor, which is to self-isolate. When we're talking about get-togethers and play dates, we're talking about them in the virtual sense.
Yeah, all of them. Okay.
I was going to jump in just about the routine. We actually are going to take attendance during the first period each day like we did all fall. We no longer have the swipe in, obviously, for the kids, but we will take that attendance and record it. And we're going to ask parents to, if your child is not able to participate in remote learning of a day because they're feeling ill, that you let us know and register that on SchoolPass.
Great.
So the next one says, how do we handle the deep sense of disappointment felt in losing their spring, i.e. sports season, senior events, etc.?
I don't know who asked that question, but it is a great question.
Yeah.
And if you can give me the answer, I will write it in a book and we'll sell the book and we'll make a lot of
Aaron,
money.
I want that as well.
So look, here's how I'm handling it. So I have a 21-year-old son who is at Colgate and was studying abroad over in Sweden. And he got sent home, got his semester cut short, did not have a chance to fulfill that. We have, on my caseload, I have seniors in college who are not going to be able to go through their graduation. And there is a deep sense of loss. And there really is no great answer other than to sit with them and empathize and validate, right? So having the time or making the time to sit with them, understand how they're feeling, using words like, yeah, that does suck. Yeah, I totally get it. I wish there was something we could do about it. There is no way, there's no magical fix for some things like this other than to sit with them and empathize. So it really requires some patience on our part of just sitting and understanding and using, the right language to connect with them at that time. Unless you have a better idea, and again, I'll write a book.
So I'll only chime in and say there was a great article by Lisa D'Amour, who actually came to Country Day and spoke a year or so back, and she does a lot of great work for the New York Times. And there was a great article she wrote last week just touching on just this very topic. How do we kind of validate for these teenagers that their voice is important, and what they are going through is important.
And just to add and also answer Wynn's question, yes, indeed. The PE department, as well as Will Turner, our strength and conditioning coach, are putting together our virtual training experiences. So one of the things that you can say to your kids is, it's the NBA is going through this themselves, and what are players doing? Well, they're preparing for the next season, and that's what you all can do, and that includes core. You're going to get emails from your kids' coaches as well as from our strength and conditioning. So the coaches are going to say, here's what you can do with a lacrosse ball against a wall at your house, and the strength and conditioning are going to say, here's some exercises that you can do that will help your leg muscles. For girls, strengthen their ACLs, things like that. And so you're going to be getting both of those, and everything is going to be housed in a fairly easily accessible remote learning site. And that comes out on Friday, and you'll be able to click on, and it'll be all age appropriate. There'll be games, physical activity for nursery kids, and things where the girls lacrosse coach is going to be giving a series of drills and ideas that she's going to want to see the kids working on, and they can work on them alone or perhaps with a sibling. And that should be really the best we can offer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one other question that came in, and it looks like it just came privately. It says, are you or GCDS sending the kids a routine to follow, not just a class schedule, but actually a daily suggested routine for good physical and mental health?
So I'm unaware of any. I'm not sending out a mental health schedule for the teens, after the school hours. I am going to be sending out some online mindfulness videos for them that I'm going to ask them to continue to try to do. And one of the videos has do's and don'ts in there for them. And so it's about a 10-minute video that I've already created, and it talks about what they should do and what I want them to avoid. So that's going to be sent out to them. In fact, that's already linked on that high school hub, and it's under something called the wellness document. I'm also going to be sending out emails and videos to all of you so that all of you can start doing some mindfulness activities and learn what your children are doing. And these are also things that you can spend some time engaging in more positive, beneficial activities to help you understand how you can control your anxiety and fears as we go through all of this. I don't think that the PE department is sending out anything specific to do, but it's going to give you and your children a bunch of different activities that they can engage in. In terms of a schedule, I really think the best way to do it is to sit with your child and have them with you create the schedule, right? We are living in a world that feels out of control, and giving them some opportunity to feel in control by letting them discuss with you what their schedule may look like would be super beneficial, rather than just imposing on them a schedule that they have to follow. We can certainly give them parameters and guidelines and do's and don'ts, but I'd like you to sit with them and help them come up with that schedule.
And they can look, Jeff, to the middle school, the hours in the academic piece, totally different. So please don't look at that part. But just to help you shape this conversation, the middle school actually has times for after academics. There's break times, academic time, and then there's I think it's called What Can I Do? So that's the time where middle schoolers are asked to go ask their mom, dad, caretaker, what can I do to help in the house? And that's in Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday as scheduled time. There's scheduled time to have free choice, which might be practice an instrument, read a book, mindfulness, whatever it is. And then there's time for exercise, and then there's actually time for a study hall. So obviously high school and middle school, different kind of animal here, but if you want to take a look at that to help shape the conversation like Jeff is saying, that might be helpful.
The next question says, back to Dr. Winters as the bad guy. I'd prefer not to be the enforcer for participation in remote learning. Glad attendance will be taken. However, what else is in place to hold students accountable?
Chris, you got that?
Chris?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
So,
My
so,
internet is not too good. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So a parent is asking, why don't I put it in the chat, but it says, a parent is asking what else is in place to hold students accountable, not just the participation in remote learning and the attendance.
So accountability for academic work is going to be based primarily on what they produce. As a project-based school, we're uniquely suited for that. I think we tend not to emphasize the flapping of the wings, but what the actual product is. And I think the kids understand that and will benefit from that. That's not to say that along the way we don't spend a tremendous amount of time helping them reflect, learn, talk about how they interacted with their peers. In seminar classes, we'll spend a lot of time talking about how they're managing this virtual world, systems that are working for them, systems that are not, and how they can adjust and change those. We do plan to maintain our current grading, as I wrote in that letter. So on the academic side, the accountability will be there quite well. The others, you know, we are a little, some a little more worried than others that the kids will be distracted. They'll be on their phones and having side conversations, but that probably is not the worst thing in the world. I think this is a unique situation, and we'll give everybody a lot of leeway in how they sort of engage with it. But at the end of the day, we'll measure kids on how well they produce, and I'm pretty confident that what they've been doing for 3/4 of the year has set them up well to finish out this year well.
And maybe Chris, while we have you, there's a question that says, can we have more grading available so the student understands exactly where they are and what they need to do? Live grading used to provide that.
Yeah, some of the schools are that are in a similar setup of as us, that has sort of grading, online grading available, but in a more limited basis. They're opening theirs up a little more. You know, because we have the synchronous learning in the morning, we have 5 teachers every day interacting with the students multiple times a day, plus the advisories, plus each advisor will be calling the kids individually to just check in on them. We can talk a lot about the grades that they have, their performance, how they're doing. I'm not too worried about that, but if there's a need, I think it's primarily from the parents to have even more sort of a greater view into how their kids are doing. We'll open up things as much as we can.
Looks like there's one more question for Chris there too.
Will teachers be reaching out? Is that what the one you're looking
Yeah.
at? Will teachers
Yes.
be reaching out and checking in with their students?
Yeah, so that, you know, you've heard a common theme, I think, in this meeting of routine and schedule and helping the kids connect. I am far more concerned about their connecting socially than I am about their ability to grow and learn academically. I think we're gonna rock that one, and school will not even feel that tremendously different on the academic growth side. Although I do think organization will be a hard thing for some of the kids, and we have to really work with them on that. But the social side of this is going to be, I think, very hard. I personally, having engaged in all these virtual meetings over the last couple weeks, I don't like it. It's not something that gives me a lot of energy and pumps me up. I'm dealing with it, and I think I'm probably pretty similar to others. So we are trying to build in all sorts of ways that kids feel connected to each other, to their teachers, to all of us, whether it be maintaining Tiger Talks or having a whole school assembly from time to time. The teachers know the expectation is that they are connecting with each child individually pretty much daily. They're not with a screen behind them, but talking about how they're doing. They know that Jeff is available. They can set up times to meet with him. So I think the kids will be telling us, you know, I'm good, back off. I don't need the daily call or the regular check-in. I'd rather err on the side of overdoing it kind of waiting and finding out after the fact that kids are having a real hard time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And just sorry, Jeff. I'll
ahead.
just add to that, which takes me back to Tim's original question. We're looking at week 1 of the remote learning experience to be all about setting up systems and making sure that the kids are ramping into this at a pace that's in bite-sized chunks that they can get. It's not going to be a day one, we're dumping 45 pages of reading on them per class and saying, write 6 essays. We really are working hard at thinking about the social emotional piece and getting them reconnected, and we will go slow to move fast, and that will be our opening salvo. As we get forward into the next couple of weeks, we'll monitor and adjust, and we'll get to a place that is a nice balance. But people shouldn't be worried or freaked out that the beginning of school this Monday is going to be such a dump on them that they're going to want to curl up in their bed and not come back out again.
If I could just say,
let's not do that.
If I could add one more thing, I think one of the centerpieces of our program is that our teachers meet as collaborative interdisciplinary teams on a daily basis. We're maintaining that expectation. We've been having the meetings with the team leads to really talk about how to facilitate our adult level work. And what they talk about in those meetings is coordinating their curricular demands on the kids, organizing the projects that cut across disciplines, and they talk a lot about the students. How is somebody doing? What are we noticing? Are there shifts in behaviors? Are there ways that we can push and accelerate and support better the students? So those adult meetings go on. It's not something that we necessarily communicate much out to all of you, but I think it's a huge factor in how we handle the remote learning for the kids.
Right. You know, what you don't see as parents is that Chris and Rick have these meetings, and so right before the break, they actually had me come in and address the entire faculty on anxiety and social isolation and what to look for. So our teachers have already been through a whole 30-minute lecture from me, how boring, but on what to look for and what to do if they see that. So, you know, one of the gifts about Greenwich Country Day School is that they are always thinking about the whole child. They're not just thinking about what are they missing academically, but as you can hear in this conversation, and even Chris is saying, we're more worried about the social emotional functioning of our kids during this time. And I am too. I am also really worried about the social emotional functioning of all of our parents, right? And as caretakers, who is taking care of us? But we have to do a lot of caretaking now that we are parents. We're taking care of our parents, and we're probably taking care of our kids, and we got to deal with our jobs and the whole thing becomes incredibly anxiety provoking. So I want to say this to all of you. It is so important to remember that this is going to be an imperfect process. This is going to be an imperfect process. And we all have to be gentle with ourselves and with our children as we all struggle and scrape our knees through this. There are going to be bumps, which is why Adam is saying we're going to go slow to go fast. We are going to have to learn what works and what doesn't. One of the great ideas, or one of the great perks of this forum, is that we can do it again next week. We can get everybody back on. Maybe we do it on Thursday after we've had, 4 days of school, and we all get on and we say, like, this is working and this isn't. But let's get through this together as a community. Let's come together. Let's talk about the do's and the don'ts. Let's talk about what the works and the not works pieces are. And that's, one of the wonderful pieces about coming to Greenwich Country.
Can we do it with cake and beer?
Say it again. I missed you. Oh, I missed you.
I
Say.
love this whole idea of getting together again. Can we do it with like cake and beer?
We have been with our faculty. We've had some happy hours.
We'll have to bring it from our own fridge. That's all. I get on.
Jealous. We got a lot of baked goods in our house. 3 teenagers are like therapeutically baking right now. I'm putting on at least 10 pounds this week.
Well, I think I'm bringing clay to your house tomorrow, so you can leave a little goodie bag for me.
So would this be a forum that you'd like us to continue?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
think it's a wonderful idea. You'll have mixed attendance, but just if you have a routine, Jeff, when we know we have like the standardized town hall or just kind of GCDS group chat where we can get together and either purr or growl, that would be awesome.
And I'd love to bring us all together and do more of this, both good and bad, right? I mean, I think the important piece is to have a safe place to come in and talk about the good and the bad, not just the good. The other piece is going to be timing of this, and I have no problem doing this again, and we've gotten the same reaction from the other parents and the other grade levels. We then have to be really cognizant of working families. And so do we have it in the evening? Do we have it during the day? And that's something that we can discuss and figure out timing. Maybe we do one in the evening and the next week we do one in the afternoon. I don't know what the best time would be, but I'd be glad to discuss it and see what we can do for next steps.
And also the ability to record it, and then you can put it on a YouTube channel and go back and watch it, or give it the ability for parents to get in if they couldn't be part of the initial meeting.
Yeah, and this one is being recorded, so we can share this.
So there's one question that we glossed over that I just don't want to skip. It says, is there any one-on-one Zoom calls between a member of the school faculty with students planned prior to the start of school?
The answer is no. I'm not aware of any one-on-one Zoom calls that the faculty is having with our students. I'd love to hear more about, I don't know who asked the question, but would love to hear more about your thinking on that.
The advisors are all going to reach out. They're all going to send letters to the children and to parents and guardians on Friday. So you'll get that sometime between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock on Friday, talking about, here's the connection, here's who I am. And then on that first Monday, there'll be the advisor meeting at 1 or 1:15, I forget what time it is. But that's going to be the first time when the advisors and advisors and advisees get together. But if your child has questions, right, they have their teachers' emails, they have all our connections. They can just reach out to us and we can be in touch with them individually if there's any concern or anxiety or anything going into it. You know, just have them get in touch with us.
Rick, can you hear me?
Yes.
While I think that's fantastic, I know that my child would probably be the one to say, well, that's kind of cringy. Like, I'll just read the emails, and they wouldn't necessarily reach out. But I know it's a lot to ask, but if the advisor or another, faculty member were to be able to reach out face-to-face via Zoom call proactively to each student, I think that opens the door for them to then feel comfortable to reach back out. I mean, I think we're going to do a lot of the screen interface, and the face-to-face stuff is going to be so important.
Yeah, let Chris and Adam and I try to figure that out. The tough part is, how do you organize 196 students over the course of that?
No, it's very easy, Rick. It's one at a time.
But what if I'm not available at 8:15 or the 8:31 didn't work for me, right? So I think it's a great idea. Let me see how we can go about trying to make that work. Because I don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. It is.
No, that's not a put you on the spot. That's just, how do we help our children? And that's what we're here for. How do we best support our children? And let me think about the best way to try to even fathom that over the next 3 days with everything else going on.
I know.
Nope, great idea though. So I like that. I think that was Mr. Sharif.
Other questions, other concerns, other?
There was a question on here about the construction on campus, and I would tell you, under the heading of good news, the governor has exempted major construction projects from the shutdown. So our construction project does roll forward on campus, and it's the only maybe silver lining of this whole thing is that the blasting that's happening now and some of the earthwork and digging is being done without disrupting classes in terms of the sound and the normal disruption that comes with that, and the dirt and the messiness. So that's been positive, and we will continue to roll forward with the same timeline on the construction.
Okay. So Laura, myself, and Polly are all available for future conversations. What we can do is if you send us an email, we can email you back, and there's a link in all of our emails that you can click on and sign up for a time. And so you'll get access to our calendar, and you can just jump right in and book a time if there's something on a more one-to-one basis that you want to talk to us about. So we're more than willing to do that. I would love to receive emails from all of you about, what if we did this forum again, is there a specific focus you would like us to take in it? Do you want to talk more about social isolation? Do you want me to talk more about direct parent anxiety and what you all can do for all those thoughts that are going on in your head, and how do you handle that? Because remember, we're the role models, right? We are absolutely the role models, and they are going to take our cues from us. And so some of the younger grades were asking, well, when this is over, how do our kids know that we're safe to go back? How will they know they're safe to leave the house? And so one of my fears is that this is going to create a whole world of OCD people who are germaphobes, right? Makes perfect sense, absolutely. But then how do we work through that and get out on the other side? And we as role models will play a really big part in that. I also, Adam was saying that we'll also let the kids know that our school is clean and safe, and we would never let you back in unless we were convinced of this. So ideas for how you want us to formulate this and frame this and structure this, I would be more than open to ideas. And I don't know, I'm sort of thinking right now off the top of my head, Adam and Chris and Rick, what if we sent out like a little survey, quick little survey about this forum? Just to the high school parents, what did you like? What did you not like? What else would you like us to add in? And then I can get all that. And I can even ask a question like, would you rather do it in the day, or would you rather do it in the afternoon, or would you rather do it in the evening? And I can look at the numbers and see what we can do from there.
Yeah, or we can include it in our Friday survey that's going out 1 week from Friday.
Got it.
Either way.
There's a quick question here about our emails. If you look in the email that you got from us from the mental health team, which had the link for this call, our emails should be right in there. If not, it's jeff.ditesso@gcds.net, but you should be able to find it right in there. There's another longer question about PTSD. Oh, this is great. So Kathy, you want to jump on and explain that?
Yeah, so this was not so much a question as a comment, but
Yeah,
just
it's great.
I feel some days like I'm suffering from PTSD. There are times of anxiety, some times of really feeling depressed, and then some other times when I feel very hopeful and secure with my family around me. So, we've worked very hard to get outside every day for at least an hour to move and to just breathe fresh air. We've had some great movie nights and some great Pictionary nights with lots of laughing, and it's helped us all feel better. I do think, I work at home, so I'm fortunate that I have some structure to my routine every day, in addition to whatever else we're doing as a family. But I think the return to school is something that will be helpful for families as a whole, for students in particular. I know my kids are, as much as, they like to moan and groan about getting up and going to school, they're looking forward to a return to that kind of structure. And I think it's really good. So thank you.
You're welcome. And Kathy, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, look, from a brain perspective, just from the brain is trained to not pay attention to good things. It's really trained to pay attention to all the bad things. And from an adaptive way of thinking, it makes sense, because if it pays attention to danger, it won't repeat that. And so it tries to keep us safe by paying attention to all the bad things that happen to us, right? If we do something silly and we're made fun of, our brain goes, don't do that again, because that would be awful. But the awful thing is that the brain doesn't pay attention to all the wonderful things that are going on. And I will often talk to my teens about, hey, when you go to this event, I want you to stop for 1 second, breathe for a minute, and just look around and pay attention to what's going on, the laughter, the fun, the moment. And I think, Kathy, in these moments of fun at your house, or whether you're outdoors, it's one of these mindful moments of stop and breathe and look and really pay attention, because we get those memories into long-term memory. If we don't stop and do that and make ourselves do it, they just go away. They don't stay with us. And what do we remember? We remember the one bad thing that happened. Somebody honked at us while we were out, right? So encouraging our kids to pay attention to those wonderful things and take that time, super important for us. So thank you for bringing that up. Any last questions for the mental health team or Adam or Chris or Rick while we have you, or while you have us?
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in, taking the time and doing this. You know, as we start these first few days, make sure you reach out to us. Let us know how everything's going and how we can help support your child, your family, especially around technology, things that may or may not be working, right? Reach out for us. We want to make this work for all of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
It's very
Stay
informative
safe.
and helpful.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good
everyone.
luck.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mm. Hi, Patricia. I see you just logged in, but we are just ending.
Like they gave good ideas about like sitting down with the kids and setting up skills.
Hi, Patricia. I'm sorry we missed you. Bye, everybody.